Hello, YouTube friends. Today we will study the first chapter of Tao Te Ching and break through the world of the naked eye. When you see this topic, you may ask, seeing is believing. If you break through the world of the naked eye, where can you break through? Could it be that what we see with our own eyes could be wrong? You and I are far apart, but Tao Te Ching connects our hearts together. Tao Te Ching is known as the Oriental Bible in the world. It also has the reputation of being the first of all scriptures. Looking at the world from a Taoist perspective, life is like a container. The essence of life lies in what is put into it. The secret of destiny is what you put into it, what you will become. The pain of life is caused by the inclusion of low-level and dirty things. The awakening of life is knowing how to put the wisdom of saints that has been tested for thousands of years into your own life. If we put the word into our lives, look at how your ego is fooling you. We will make new discoveries about life. Studying scriptures is different from studying general knowledge. The above is the original text of the Tao Te Ching. The translated meaning is, a Tao that can be described in words is not an eternal Tao. A name that can be called is not an eternal name. With space, heaven and earth begin to appear. With roots, all things begin to grow. Therefore, if a person always maintains a peaceful and desire-free mentality, he can deeply observe the subtleties of the world and all things. If he always has desires, he can only see the superficial things of the world and all things. Space and matter appear at the same time and have different names. They are both mysterious. That mysterious and far-reaching extreme is where all things in the world come into being. In the first chapter, Lao Tzu talked about three core principles. The first one is that Tao can be Tao, but it is very Tao. That's right, it can be expressed in words. It is not the objective, natural, and holistic Tao. The second principle is that famous, very famous. We use some nouns to call things, but this is not the same as the thing itself. The third principle is that the beginning of the unknown world, the famous mother of all things. This will refers to the state of heaven and earth at the beginning. And yes, it's a state that we ourselves can recognize. Let us first talk about the first important point of Taoism and Taoism. Maybe some friends will say, what I say is fair, but very fair. Can we still say this? If the Tao cannot be said, so what do we usually talk about? Don't be anxious. Don't be anxious. Let's take a look at our own life first. In the real life we are familiar with, we often encounter such an embarrassing situation. When two people are talking, each is talking about his own truth. So it happened that the public said the public was right, and the mother-in-law said the mother-in-law was right. Such a funny situation. But who is really right? If we continue like this, at worst, they will break up unhappy, or it could turn into a quarrel. Think about it, if life goes on like this, what else is good to say? Let's go further back to our daily lives. When parents and children talk, are you using more of a lecturing tone and criticizing your children? Do parents always believe that what they say is correct? When talking between husband and wife, do you always say you are right? Maybe you even think the other person is wrong? When talking among friends, are you trying your best to prove that your point of view is correct? Do you always want the other person to accept your point of view? You see, we are all saying that we are right, but it's hard to accept other people's reasoning, or never thought about it at all. The other party's opinions that are different from your own. It is precisely our own blind thinking. If this continues, how can there be real communication between people? What exactly happened here? Why is there such a very embarrassing situation? There are two main reasons. The first is that we don't know the true objective path. Each of us knows this truth. Objective laws are not subject to human subjective will. Therefore, we will not face a, what does purely objective things mean? Because I know it is an objective thing. We can only follow its laws. If the objective thing opposite is replaced by a person, it is difficult for us to regard it as objective anymore. Nor will he take into account what the person opposite him did, as the presentation of the objective laws of the Great Road. Therefore, Zhuangzi told us an empty boat theory. What it means is that if the wind blows an empty ship towards you, you will only avoid but not rebuke. But if there are people on board, it's different. You see, each of us has such a blind spot in our thinking. We will regard objective things as objective, but he won't treat the person opposite him objectively. The second reason is that we don't realize our own limitations. People attach great importance to their own subjective opinions, but they don't know that their own subjective views have limitations. Therefore, the subjective and limited point of view is often regarded as hold on as truth. Of course, this is totally wrong. I understand this truth. We can summarize several moral creeds like this. A wise person can understand the rationality of others. Ignorant people only believe in their own rationality. A wise person will ask for advice when dealing with different opinions. The unethical person always opposes and rejects other people's different opinions. Righteous people always talk about their mistakes. The unrighteous are always proving that they are right. Then let's talk about the second essential point in Chapter 1 of the Tao Te Ching. It's famous, but it's very famous. Some people would say that we think about problems and express opinions. Many nouns are used. But Lao Tzu said, the name can be named, but it is very famous. If there were no such terms, how else do we think and how do we speak? Yes, we are in life. It is indeed inseparable from many concepts and nouns. So when we talk, we'll judge many people and things. I like this, I hate that. This is good, that is bad. But if we date for a while, maybe you'll find out. I don't like what I liked at first as much anymore. Even those who were disgusted at first seem to be able to accept it now. What I thought was a good discovery at first was not that great. What I thought was bad at first seems not that bad after all. What has actually happened? It turns out we all have a ruler in our heads, measuring everything in the world all the time, continuously judging what we see and hear. This also gives us many stereotypes and even prejudices. This is the most typical labeling phenomenon in life. That person, that thing actually. It's us who call it good or bad. It is not that the thing itself is called good or bad. It is our emotions that turn certain things and people into marked as like or dislike. In fact, there is no thing or person. It's called like or dislike. If we don't understand this, instead, continue to follow this understanding of your own, we'll deviate from the truth of objective things themselves. This is the most typical manifestation of our subjective blindness. It can be seen that our subjectivity often distorts the truth of things. As long as our subjectivity moves, the truth will be concealed. Wisdom will be deceived. We understand the above reasoning. Maybe you will have such a moral creed in your heart. Just a subjective move. Just go and interrogate yourself. What am I going to do again? As long as we label things or people, we'll be alert soon. I'm going to be prejudiced again. It can be seen that. Control your thoughts to eliminate prejudice. Finally, let's talk about the third essential point mentioned by Lao Tzu in the first chapter of the Tao Te Ching. Just whether or not. Lao Tzu said that nothing is the beginning of heaven and earth. Being is the mother of all things. This is easy to understand. Isn't this nothing but nothing? If there was nothing at the beginning, how could everything in the world be born? Many of us are in such doubts. It is difficult to enter the world of Lao Tzu's wisdom. Then let's go back to our lives. We all know this idiom. It's called making something out of nothing. In the art of war, this is a strategy. But in life, it is often a conspiracy. Actually, in life, making something out of nothing is a basic law and the normal state of the world. Look, there may be nothing in the open space. Later, a building appeared. It turns out it's in our hearts. Got an idea for a building. The building is tangible, but at the beginning, this idea was invisible. Look, the physical building we see, isn't it just born from invisible thoughts? We can see lights and brightness, but I can't see the current behind it. Isn't this light just an invisible current? Was it produced? Sometimes we are sick and have a fever. When I got to the hospital, I took a test. Found to be a bacterial infection. It turns out we are sick. It's caused by bacteria that are invisible to the naked eye. Look, what we can see with our naked eyes. They are all born from the invisible things that are invisible to the naked eye. Existence and non-existence. This is the first threshold for entry. We all live in the world of the naked eye. What we can see, we think there is. What is invisible is considered nothing. Actually, this is wrong. Our naked eyes give us this illusion. Modern science tells us what the human eye can see is very limited. Most of the world exists. It is beyond the reach of our naked eyes. We often say seeing is believing. In fact, this so-called reality, it's just that the objective world exists as a whole, an extremely limited part. About 90% exist objectively. It's invisible to our naked eyes. If we could add the tangible and the intangible together, only then can we have a complete world. Understand the truth of existence and non-existence. We can develop several higher-level creeds in our hearts. A wise person can see into the world beyond the naked eye. This is called complete. Highly creative people are able to make something out of nothing. This is creativity. Spiritual people are able to connect existence and non-being. This is called the spiritual world. A person with enlightenment can find the nothingness behind everything. This is wisdom. Okay, let's make a summary of the study in Chapter 1. Let's see we finish Chapter 1. What kind of gains will we have? It boils down to 3 points. The first point is that righteous people say others are righteous. An unjust person says he is right. If you realize the Tao, everyone in the world can be friends. The second point is, don't rush to evaluate. Otherwise, an error will occur. Don't jump to conclusions too quickly. Otherwise, it will be wrong. Understand this. When we encounter something, we will stay calm and collected. The third point. The naked eye tells you that seeing is believing. The eye of heaven tells you that what you see is only a small part of reality. We live in a world of small things and big things. Only in this way is it complete. Thank you for listening and accompanying me.